All right, so today we are going to talk about, today I want to talk about sort of your daily trading procedure and what one should look for, and what one should look for going into the day, or at least said differently, I don't know if there's a right or wrong method for things, but kind of how I start my day, and try to cover all bases and formulate a plan going into the day. So I'm all about routine because of things. The reason why I like to have a routine and sort of a standard way of doing things is to give one a baseline for what you're doing as far as your trading. Good morning, Medad. Because if you have a baseline in your trading, then you've covered, or in your analysis, then if things are working well, morning, Dave. If things are working well, then you can continue to do those things. If things are not working well, then at least you have a standard operating procedure to adjust things from. But if you're all over the map, then you don't really have a decent baseline to work from. All right, so that's my thinking in terms of a routine, to be reasonably systematic about what you're doing. Obviously, this is a dynamic, moving beast, and you need to be able to be flexible with it, but there has to be a skeleton of procedure that one goes through, I think, is what I'm trying to get at. All right, so what is that procedure? For myself, I start trading, start my day. Obviously, I'll have a look at things in Asia, but I start my day around 9:30 p.m. my time on the west coast of the United States, which is approximately 5:30 in the morning London time. And then I prepare my trading day for the London Open, which is at 8 a.m. London, midnight for myself, 3 a.m. on the East Coast. All right, and then it kind of just filters through from there. It's not the most ideal trading session, but such is life. If you like water, you should not live in California. All right. We just don't seem to get any of that anymore. But so first things first for myself is, obviously, if you're tired, grab some coffee. But I like to just do I like to sort of just do a superficial reading of what's happened prior to myself getting there. All right, so that may consist of, in my case, I got Trade the News. So I'll look at the Trade the News summaries of the Asian session, of the late New York session. I'll maybe read Yahoo Finance. I mean, anything that looks interesting, and it's not necessarily to even gain a ton of information because it's all news, right? It's all come and gone. However, what it does is it puts one in the frame of mind of, okay, it's work time. All right? You go from, because trading is very different to real life. You go from, making spaghetti and meatballs for dinner, and then you have to all of a sudden start trading. So I find that just reading economic stuff puts one in that frame of mind. All right? Now, you don't want to do so much in-depth fundamental analysis at this point that one is clouding your judgment by opinion right out the gate. Okay? I made the mistake the other day of turning on CNBC and listening, and because I had nothing else going on in the background, and I got about 17 different opinions on the Fed, and I had all my conviction that I thought I had all of a sudden became, well, hang on a minute. So I had to quickly backtrack there and turn all that off. Because one's own analysis is by far and away the best. By far and away. Because you're the only one that has to trade that information. So if you have other people's thoughts in your mind, you better have a way of tuning that out, or at least making it sort of complementary to what you're thinking. In other words, a dissenting voice that you can tune in and tune out when you feel applicable, and you have to have the conviction to be able to do that. I think that comes with experience. Rick Santelli likes to drop the drama on you, though. He'll drama you up. He's there in the pits, and he's got people screaming in his ear. Good, yeah. Okay, so, light reading, number 1 for me. Right. Then number 2 is, I like to look and see basically what Asia's done, right? And what late New York has done, because a lot of times you're simply going to do what everybody else has been doing, all right? And that's very self-explanatory, right? You just, I mean, in my case, I have a screen that looks like this. You know, it's kind of split like this, and it's got 6 charts in it. It actually is rectangular. It's not the... Oh, okay, where to get that handle? I'll just do it like this. Very rough freehand here. Okay, and I'll have euro dollar, pound, Aussie, euro yen, USD yen, and say euro Aussie or whatever floats your boat. Okay, and the point here is, and these are 15-minute charts for the most. You know, I might have an hourly here on the yens just so I can see a little bit more of it, and a 15-minute, and a 15-minute. All right, and all I'm basically looking to see here is what's moving. You know, in our case, yesterday I logged in, and this is euro dollar. You know, a flat line central. Pound was rejecting 66 and kind of doing something, a grind to the downside like this. And the Aussie had come down, done a little base out, was trying to push up. And euro yen was messing around with 39.90. And the USD yen was making a double top at 103.50. And euro Aussie was looking nothing but down. Okay? I absolutely do. Yep. And I'll get back to you on those in just a sec. Yes. All right. So all I'm trying to do here is find the active currency. Which one seems to be the mover and shaker for the day? Does that necessarily mean it's going to continue? No. No. But probably is the source of something. Right? Why is the Aussie moving so much? Okay, well, the emerging markets are all tanking. Maybe we should look at that. If that's the case, maybe if you want emerging market exposure, you're going to go to the Aussie. Right, so one can start the thinking process, okay? Just get the brain moving, get the wheels turning, all right? You know, in my case, I'll look at the correlation of things, and then I'll generally start my analysis with that sort of active currency. So it might be the Aussie if it was really moving, all right? And then I'll go from that onto euro.